of Loyola. And he talks about carrying God in your heart. And when I thought about this, and I was praying about this, right? I got the right bullets again. There's some notes like, wait, is that not what it's I was thinking about, do you remember, I know nobody was actually there, but the old story with the bucket brigades, you know, before there was like regular fire departments and pumps and all that kind of stuff, and fire hydrants and all that stuff. They used to have the bucket brigades, and they passed the buckets and passed the buckets to put the fires out, right? So like they would all line up, and they'd have multiple buckets, and they'd go around empties and fulls and all that kind of stuff to put the fire out. Inside was water. And the whole objective was to put the fire out. And I thought about that because I thought about how in our hearts, we're like buckets filled with God's love. And so we kind of pick these ideas, these things that we want to work on. We feel like God calls our heart to mission and ministry work, right? And so we want to be very careful not to spill any of the water out of the buckets, right? And we're taking it there, and we're putting it on the things that we care about the most. We're putting it on all kinds of worldly concerns, social justice issues, all kinds of things about helping people get through their lives, helping people know that God loves them deeply. But just like the bucket brigades, a lot of water kind of falls out. And sometimes we really feel like, oh my goodness, we're doing a great disservice every time we pass the buckets along, and a little bit of water falls out. But then I thought about maybe that's really not the case. Maybe that's really the best part of passing the bucket from thing to thing. Because we get so focused on these big things, we forget the little things. And that God's love should get spilled out with regularity as you pass it between one another. There are those things that we think are most vital and most important, in which we want all of our heart poured out. And if our heart is filled with God's love, we pour it out. We have heaven all the time. But it's also totally okay for a little bit of heaven to spill out in between. To spill out, like on the way to work. To spill out between those people that you like and you love. To spill out to sometimes people you don't like and you don't love. It's called grace. And it always keeps on coming. And it always keeps on filling. But the good news is, and this is what Jesus talks about, and this is very theological. This is, at the end of the day, this is really my opinion. This is my reading of the gospel. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that later. Is that when you fill it up with that love, there's a lot of it. There's always the fear that we're not going to have enough of the fire to put it out. But the real understanding and the most important, valuable lesson of the bucket brigade of God's love in our heart is that that cistern, that well by which we drag that water out, never goes empty. And so that's when we talk about the bigness of God, we talk about, the God of everywhere and everything. The God who made the heavens and the earth. The God who made all these things. The God that's everywhere. It's about a God whose love is so vast that as many bucketfuls as we take, it just doesn't empty out. And so this morning I invite you to a time of quiet meditation and prayer. And if we turn to what St. Ignatius says, is he who carries God, and I apologize, it was a long time ago, they only knew keys. Maybe it should be we. We who carry God in our hearts bear heaven with him wherever we go. Carry heaven in our hearts wherever we go. That's hard to figure that out. I got to work on my pronouns to make that work. And so this morning I invite you to a moment of quiet meditation. To see God in your heart and to see where you can spill heaven on the way